Hello everyone, welcome to the first part of Advanced NTLM Relay Attacks series. Here we'll explore different NTLM relay options that can help you to move laterally or escalate privileges during a penetration test or CTF, as well as we'll talk about defenses against these types of attacks and what we need to do to prevent those. Here in the first video, we'll do a quick intro to NTLM relay attacks for those who are not familiar with it, and then we'll dive into how I can enumerate domain users via a relay attack when we had no prior credentials and are only able to relay credentials, so a standard domain user to another computer, for example. So here, if you want to learn more about NTLM relay attacks, I'll just give a brief overview, but if you want to learn more, some great resources are HackerSP. So here it shows this nice diagram, and you can go to this link. It talks about different ways you can relay. I think that's pretty nice. So we'll talk about SMB, like sign in, what this is for. It talks about LDAP. So this is kind of high level. This is not everything because there are other levels. And we already touched on some of the NTLM relay attacks such as EC8 and EC11 in previous videos if you want to check those out. But yeah, we'll touch upon most of these things as we go. But here, let's just cover first what an NTLM relay attack is. And this blog is also really good. I'll link it. So this kind of gives you a nice visual. Essentially, an NTLM relay attack is just a man-in-the-middle attack where attacker, like here in the middle, oops, you meant to do that. Pretends to be a server and kind of sits in the middle of the communication and forwards all the NTLM messages back and forth between a real server and a client. So as you can see, NTLM has negotiate, challenge, and authenticate. So just sit in the middle, like, hey, we got negotiate, forward it to the server. This generates challenge, we forward it to the client, and then the authentication goes to us and we forward to the server, and we get a session. Essentially how it works in a nutshell without diving into all the NTLM technicalities. But this image depicts it really well, and if you want to know more about it, I'll link it in the description below. This blog goes into much more details about how all this works. So ideally, with NTLM basic attack, NTLM basic relay attack, you want to capture a session of administrator and you want to relay it to another computer, and you want to dump SAM or get a shellless system. We're not going to cover that. We're going to more advanced NTLM relay attacks that are not very well known, but also capturing a session of admin is a bit more complicated and more rare as opposed to things I'll show you here in this series. Alright, let's dive in. So our attack is going to be, as always, have my lab environment, I have my Kali. Let me pull this up a little bit. Let's just make sure it works. Kali VM, we got our domain controller, and we got our another server basically that we'll relay to. For the most part, you can never relay to domain controllers because they have SMB sign by default. But we'll talk about this in a minute. So yeah, in this video we'll explore how we can get full list of domain users when we're doing a black box test with no credentials. So right now I have no CADs, like we're on the network, but we have no CADs. That's what client request or this part of a CTF. And we're gonna relay someone else's credentials to be able to get the list of all users in the domain. That's kind of the essential attack, so just type it out real quick for you. So no CADs. We're not able to do much, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna capture someone else's credentials. In our case, it's gonna be fcastle, which is a regular user. We're gonna relay those to gotham computer. And instead of just saying it and saying, oh, go, we'll capture it using SOX proxy. So this is gonna give us an active session we can use. And with this, we can enumerate all domain users. Oh, this could be a little bit confusing right now, but we'll take it slow and I'll show you all the steps. So let's first talk prerequisites. As always, as I mentioned before, SMB sign-in is what makes this attack impossible. So we want to find computers that don't have SMB sign-in. That's one of the prerequisites. And we can do this using NetExec real quick. So it looks something like this. We give it a subnet and we tell it like, hey, generate us a relay list, which is a module, and put relay attacks. So this is gonna go and find all computers that don't have SMB sign enabled, and it's gonna save it to this list. So let's hit enter. As you can see, we don't need credentials for this. It's just and we can see that Gotham computer with this IP doesn't have sign enabled. All domain controllers usually have sign enabled by default, unless it's an older one. In that case, you could relay to domain controllers as well, it doesn't matter. But it's important that we get this list of computers that we could relay to. Now, if we look at this, we just got the IP that we are gonna use later. As per tools, we need 3 tools. First one is responder. That's just traffic poisoner that poisons the traffic, and we get sessions and we can relay those. Next one is going to be NTLM Relay X from InPacket. So this is what does the actual forwarding of the handshakes. And last one for this particular attack, we'll need exchange zone, because we're gonna create a SOX proxy. So this is all about prerequisites and tools. Now let's dive into the attack. So now to know that Gotham doesn't have sign enabled, it will be our target for the relay. And because I'm in the lab environment, I'm gonna force an authentication to me, but in the real world, you just set up a responder and you'll most likely get some kind of session that you'll be able to relay. Yeah, because there's always plenty of traffic going on, and there's high chance that somebody will try to authenticate you because they mistyped the share, or it wasn't mapped properly, or it doesn't exist. It'll generate traffic for you. But to make it realistic, we'll do the full setup as how you would do it in the real world. So first is we need to change responder settings. The command will look like this. So it's basically changing SMB sign from on to off, because otherwise it's gonna capture the hash, but we don't want to capture, we want to relay it. So we do this command. I need to run the sudo because it's protected. So now responder is gonna poison the traffic and capture the credentials and pass it over to NTLM Relay X instead of using those and capturing the hash. So let's start responder real quick. What is my interface? ETH0. So now we can see that SMB is off. Make sure it is off. And now we're poisoning the traffic. So in the real world, you would probably see already some hashes flying here. Next, we need to stop NTLM Relay X from InPacket, and we're gonna give it a list of targets. In our case, it's gonna be just one IP. We'll go like this. SMB to support. TF means target file. We're just given the file with all targets. And here we specify -SOX to establish a SOX proxy that we could use later. This is very useful. Alright, we're gonna run this. Don't worry about this errors, it doesn't matter. Just complain about some ports not being available. And essentially right now we have this responder poisoning traffic and relay setup. It's gonna relay all the connections if somebody authenticates. So in the real world, you would just wait, just leave it like this. It doesn't cause any problems. Like responder is just poisoning traffic for LMNR and some other things, and for IPv6, I believe. And it doesn't matter. Like you can just leave it overnight if you don't have credentials, do some other recon, search some dark web information, do some OSINT. But here it will, once somebody authenticates to the server, it will gonna capture credentials and relay those to our target, which is this IP in our case. But because we're in a lab environment, I would have to force it manually. So we're gonna go to our, oh, all my servers died. So give me a second, I'm gonna pause the video, start those, and we'll replicate the real world scenario. Alright, sorry about that. Both servers are up and running, and now we can do the actual attack. So here I'll just do a simple SMB authentication to my IP of my Kali machine. So let's hit enter. I couldn't find it, but the authentication was initiated. And yeah, we can see that the relay did happen indeed. Nothing here, but it's expected because we turned off SMB. All it was doing is poisoning the traffic right now. So yeah, here we can see that we authenticate from our DC IP as Marvel F Castle to our target. So what we want to do right now is we want to use lookup seeds from inpacket to enumerate all users. But before this, because this is a proxy connection, we need to connect to it using proxy chains, and it's listening for us on port 1080 on localhost. So we need to make sure we set up our proxy chains properly. So if we go into proxychains.conf, we need to make sure we have socks 5 and this line uncommented and set to 1080. Or if we're using socks 4, we need to change this to 1080. And now we can use proxy chains. I'll specify -q for quiet mode. Lookup seeds to enumerate all users using inpacket. We need to give it -pass because we're not using password. We need to give it option domain seeds, enumerate all the users. And here we need to just copy this username format. This is very important. If you don't specify it exactly, it's gonna fail. And the IP is gonna be the IP of our target, not the domain controller. It's gonna be our target, which is 128, I believe. Yeah, it's 128. And now it's gonna use that SOCKS proxy to set up using NTLM Relay Attacks to connect to that system and enumerate all domain users. Did I mistype it? Lookup seed, not lookup seed. Here we go. We got all the users from this domain. We can spray them. We can try to look for ISR hosting. We can search them on the dark web to see if there are any, not on the dark web, on the known breach credentials websites to see if there are any known passwords that have been compromised and try to spray those as well against the users. So yeah, essentially we got from no credentials, no information to all of the domain users and groups. So we could enumerate it and try some spraying. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed it. I think this attack is very interesting. And the other option you can do is you could look at the SMB shares the user has access to. But that's not very useful most of the time, but getting all the users from no credentials is very useful, as it opens up a lot more doors for privilege escalation and getting an actual user. So yeah, as per mitigation for most of the stacks, it's gonna be just enable sign. Enable sign for SMB, LDAP, HTTP, MSQL, WinRM. We'll go over all of those in the series, but yeah, just enable those, and that's the only way to brand the stack. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one. I'll link the articles in the description down below, so check those out. And take care. Bye.